3 of those guys to come and say how they would, prepare a company of this type for sale.
So sale or investors?
Sale or third-party investors, have a seminar.
Fair enough. I think
I think you get a lot of insights, lot of insights.
We will do that. Absolutely.
So it's again a valuation, but it's a different aspect. It is software product we have, and we have good clientele, odd clientele with, we can say around 4% is Fortune 500 clientele. When I was talking to a few investors, I got one very good question. These clientele you have, it is by chance because you are also present in the market, or you have actually done something sure. And honestly speaking, I don't have any answer to that because effort was there to claim those clients, to bring them on the panel. Everything was done. Strategy was planned to have, maybe it is like a discounted price of 90%, does not matter, but bringing the kind of Fortune 500, the panel at the beginning level is there. So for the software product, what does matter? Clients or product or AP? How you can calibrate these 3 parameters?
In the end, for a product company, the quality of the product and the space it is in is the critical part, right? So if you're producing a product which I, as an investor, think that, hey, this is a hot product, and I think that there is room for yet another software product in this space, and that they're not the big gorillas who are already there. And I think that this company, maybe here, it will never become a SAP, let's say at one end, but it has got enough room to grow, and I can exit or do whatever at that level, then I will be very interested. The questions they were asking you about customers was more to say that, in terms of valuation, capabilities is, did you just respond to a RFP? Or did you proactively find the client and convince him to use your product? A company which can proactively find customers and convince them of a product is valued a lot more than somebody who just sits back and every time somebody puts out an RFP, responds to it, and just on the basis of the strength of the product sells. So the product has a value. If your product is better than X, there's a value. But a product which is good but which doesn't sell is valueless. So they're trying to assess, is this company able to take a good product and take it to market? The biggest value for a product company, in my view, is building a product is the easiest part, I would say. Building a product is the easiest part of the business. Selling it is the toughest part of the business. So you get a lot more money for a company which is able to sell anything than a company which produces anything.
Means selling or the customer acquisition.
The whole customer, the front end part of it is the most valuable part of any business. Valuable part. Because delivery, you can either do it or you can find somebody who can do it. But selling has got to be done, by you. And that is the most valuable part of the business.
So let me ask you a question again, and I'm going to take off from partially what some of the people have reached out. I have a services company. As a part of being in the services company, I developed a product. So not my core line of business, but I developed a product. Because I have a sales force, or because I am a services company, I managed to deploy the product somewhere. Now, how do I value that if I want to hike it off to a strategic partner? That could be potentially a client of mine, could potentially be whatever. So how do I structure something like that? And what would be the value? Is there a value to it? Or is it a meaningless product? Or is it a meaningless product?
It's a limited process. There are some legal issues associated with something like this, and there are some business issues associated. First of all, in a service business, when you're developing something, then you have to look at your contract with the person for whom you are doing anything, and you got to ensure, that what you develop for them, or in the course of developing something for them, if IP has been created, who owns that IP? I'm just saying that I'm not going to spend time on it. You've got to determine who owns that IP. Do they own it or you own it? And there have been cases where people have come back and said, hey, you developed that for us. You can't take that and sell it as a product to somebody else. So look at your contractual obligations, on what you are developing. Now, as a result of developing the product for somebody, you realize a need in the market for other things, and you don't infringe on the contractual obligation of developing the product, and your product comes out of that, then you've got to say, okay, there is a product here. I am not going to be sued by my customer for selling a product which they paid for effectively, and I am doing. So this is mine. I can now think I can sell this. Then you have the challenge of saying, look, do I keep it within a service organization, or do I spin it off? Because selling a product is very different from selling a service, And sometimes what happens when you try to do both within a company, sometimes, I'm not saying all the time, sometimes both suffer, And in fact, in the old days, I used to tell, especially product companies, they would be starting a product, but then they would say, I've got people, I can do a service, money can come in to fund the product. And what happens is the service side of the business becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, and the product development goes later and later and later. Because your focus is in bringing revenues in, whereas building a product is about future revenues. You've got to have an investment, and you convince yourself that you need to do the service to fund the product. And in the end, the service part of it takes over. So you've got to do the reverse. When you've got a service company and the product, you've got to say, if I'm going to be in the product business, I've got to treat it entirely different. I'll tell you, I'll quote examples, Look at Infosys, They've got a product which, Finacle, but they've kept it within Infosys. Because for them, they think that they can manage the process, together. And that because there is so much service delivery based on the platform. That look, the revenues has got to be not only the license fee revenue, but all the other, professional fee. And if you really look at it now, compare. Infosys came at this from the services side. If you look at the other way, SAP and Oracle used to have a very large service delivery teams. They realized that they couldn't do it and they hived it off. They said, look, let Infosys implement, let TCS implement. We can't run service organization because their culture was product, right? But they thought, look, why are we getting Infosys and TCS and Accenture and all these guys to earn the big fees on implementing our software? We can do it ourselves. So its competence also comes into the equation. So I would say, there is no hard and fast rule, but you've got to treat them very much as two separate businesses. You can keep it within one, do so. But the valuation, Infosys would argue that, look, we get a bigger multiple for our service business than any product company gets for their product revenue. So actually, it is better to call a product revenue service revenue and take the 25% multiple rather than putting it as a software product and getting 15.
That is good.
When you're a small company, it's just a group of, let's say, 20, 25 people, you are actually into service. As you said, that, don't think of this and that, there is an idea in mind that I really think if I implement in my company, I build something, I implement in my company, which is really going to save a lot of time and stuff, and one day I realize that, hey, why not I try to service in the market? Okay, so the product is ready, it's running good, it's been already tested, so many clients are already using it. Clients are also encouraging you that, hey, why don't you actually take it out to the market and you say, okay, saying this is very easy, as you said, that building something is an easy part and selling is obviously a big thing. Then you realize that at this stage you might need some support. It's not just you need a team, you also need money and stuff for all this thing. Then the first thing that comes in mind that it's a question, either look for an investor, angel investor, or they call it anything. An investor who is going to invest in your stuff, who is going to look at the stuff, how it's going to be, what's the future, based on your plan. The other option is that we carry on with the service part, try to bring in more money and develop more stuff for the client so that money flows in and we put in the product marketing and stuff. What would be your first suggestion to this part? That what will you suggest that which thing we should focus more on? First preference should be to